investigating involving the death of a 6-month-old child, little Jeremiah. I also want to tell you that we're showing Jeremiah's picture with the permission of his dad. This week we arrested Jeremiah's mother, Tatiana Norman, and charged her in his death. This investigation began June 29th of this year at about 11:39 at night when our officers responded to the area of Chestnut Woods Drive to a report of an unresponsive infant. Upon arrival, officers made contact with Tatiana and Jeremiah, who was transported to the Lakeland Regional Health Center, where he sadly was pronounced deceased at 12:32 a.m. During the initial medical examination, there were no obvious signs of trauma that would have explained why the child passed away. There was, however, an unexplained mark on the child's left thigh. When officers spoke to Miss Norman at the scene, she relayed that she had placed Jeremiah in bed while she went to prepare a bottle. When she returned, she found Jeremiah had fallen from the bed onto the tile floor. She said the infant cried immediately, but she was able to soothe him, feed him, and put him to sleep. It was later discovered that he was unresponsive. Later, when detectives began interviewing Miss Norman again, she began providing information that was inconsistent with what she had initially stated. She said she went to sleep with a 6-month-old child and her 1-year-old child in the same bed, and maybe she or the other child rolled on top of the infant. She admitted she concealed this to us with the co-sleeping part of it because she feared the criminal consequence. When detectives asked about the mark on the child's leg, Norman said that happened accidentally when she put the baby in bath water, which was too hot. An autopsy was then completed by Dr. Garavan of the Polk County Medical Examiner's Office, which found the child sustained injuries that were not consistent with falling off the bed, which we measured to be a height of approximately 22 inches from the top of the mattress to the tile floor. The medical examiner determined that the injuries were more severe and ruled the manner of death a homicide. The medical examiner also determined that the mark on the child's leg was inconsistent with being burned by hot bath water, but was more the result of, quote, a thermal event, unquote. On July 1st, detectives conducted a second sworn interview with Ms. Norman, where she was confronted with the findings of the medical examiner. During this interview, Ms. Norman admitted that Jeremiah had sustained multiple injuries throughout the day on June 29th, which she intentionally failed to disclose in our previous interview with her. She said on that day she was feeling overstimulated and fatigued from caring for her 2 children. Ms. Norman said she accidentally dropped the child onto the floor while reaching for a remote control, and that the child struck his head about 9 o'clock in the morning. Rather than seeking medical attention, she researched the injury symptoms on her phone and decided to monitor him at home. She went on to say later that day the child had fallen from the bassinet after his 1-year-old sibling climbed up onto it and it tipped over. She described the infant as landing face first on the tile floor. Ms. Norman said that around 1 o'clock that same day, she became overwhelmed while both children were crying, and she intentionally threw the infant into a playpen from a standing position. She released him from several feet away, causing him to strike the back of his head on the playpen. Norman then demonstrated once that her throw was underhanded, and then demonstrated a second time that her throw was from over her head. Also, the playpen did not have a cushioned bottom and rested on the tile floor. Ms. Norman said the child did not cry, but briefly opened his eyes, curled his hands and fingers inward in a clenching motion. Ms. Norman also said the child later fell from the bed, again striking the back of his head. She added that for the remainder of the day, the child was unusually sleepy, consumed significantly less formula, and that she had to wake the child for feedings. However, she still did not seek medical attention. It was not until much later that night that Norman said she found the child unresponsive and alerted her mother, and then called 911 at about 11:30 that evening. Again, remember now, this started at 9 o'clock that day, according to her. When Norman was confronted with the medical examiner's findings regarding the burn injury to the child's left thigh, Norman admitted that she lied previously and said that the burn was caused from a spilled hot broth onto the child this time. Again, this injury is not consistent with a spilled hot broth. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Norman's cell phone and found the following searches were made on June 29th, 2026, the day baby Jeremiah was injured. Baby feels cold. Baby has a concussion. Baby has concussion is an emergency. What happens when baby had concussion in Florida? What happens when baby had concussion? How long baby has concussion? Does baby sleep longer with a concussion? Those all occur within about an 8-minute time frame. For close to the next hour, she watched 2 TikTok videos. They also noted on her phone that after sometime before the event, or shortly after the event, she visited approximately, at there 30 entries on different pornographic sites that was on her phone. After the last interview with Norman, a subsequent consultation was held with Dr. Garavan of the Polk County Medical Examiner's Office. It was determined that the 4 falls described by the suspect, specifically with the child being thrown onto his crib from a standing position, were consistent with the injuries that he identified in the autopsy. The medical examiner further opined that if the child had received treatment immediately following the injuries, the outcome may have been different, including the possibility that a timely medical care could have prevented the death of the child. Tatiana Norman, who is 23 years old, has been charged with aggravated child abuse, which is a first-degree felony and carries a maximum penalty of about 30 years in prison. Of course, those charges have the possibility of being upgraded as State Attorney Haas and his team gets further into this prosecution. Again, I want to thank the many detectives that are standing up here with me today and some in the back of the room, the forensic personnel that worked the crime scene of both of these horrific events, not only the shooting, but the death of this poor little man, Jeremiah, and the State Attorney's Office who have worked on this case. So before I open the floor to questions, let me turn it over to Brian Haas, our State Attorney with the Polk County, and let him make some comments. Brian?
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. And thank you all for being here today. I just want to briefly comment on the tragedy of both of these cases. And if you just think for a moment of these 2 victims in different stages of their lives, but so tragic in each example. We have a beloved grandmother, mother, family member, wife who was tragically and senselessly taken by gun violence from a family that loved her so much. And they are going to be victims forever by having the loss of Miss Cooper. And then this poor innocent baby who didn't even have a chance to start his life, senselessly taken by just terrible criminal acts. It's why we focus so much on the prosecution of violent crimes and those who harm children and take advantage of their vulnerabilities. I think one of the things that needs to be noted is the incredible dedication of Miss Cooper's family in their advocacy. Over the years of being state attorney, I've had the pleasure and honor of working with many families who are victims and are loved by many in the community. But this family in particular stands out by their not giving up and sticking with it and having a lot of patience, because it's inappropriate to rush to charges until you know you have sufficient evidence to take it to the end. And sometimes that's frustrating, and especially when you have to wait almost 6 years, it's very frustrating. But the reason why we're here today is because of the work of the agencies that you see represented up here. The ATF, the Lakeland Police Department, they never gave up. And I saw the dedication of these agents and these officers. They were acting like Miss Cooper was a member of their family. And that's a pretty special thing. And that's a tribute to the great staff and folks that are here in ATF and at Lakeland Police Department. So we are ready to take this forward. I've spoken with the family about the need for more patience, unfortunately, because we all know that the criminal justice system is slow moving. So now that we have the charges and we're ready to go, We hope we get everybody in custody really soon. We have one to go, and we take it from here. But it's an honor to be part of this to help get justice for both of these victims, and that's our goal. Thank you.